let's roll the music. Cool, man. Angad, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Dennis. Thank you for asking. It's Friday night, so I'm pretty chilled. And
You're
how about
pretty
you?
chilled. It's Friday night, so yeah, kind of chilled. I watched a very bad movie. Like, I didn't understand the story about what is happening inside it. I got confused, but the guy who was watching with me, he understood everything apparently. So I'm like,
Great.
okay, all right. At least somebody benefited out of Netflix. Good.
Yeah.
And today we're talking about our favorite thing. Our favorite thing, that is writing. Writing is like letting out what's inside of me, isn't it? Like, what's inside of you. That's what is writing. For me, writing is such. Like, writing is letting out the truth as is. For me, the way I understand it. And sometimes it's like escaping a fire, when you're writing. I mean, taking words and jumping out of the window before it burns down. uh, the flip side is that the words have the power to burn others down. And in a world that we are right now, we have to carefully place the word, sugarcoat it. But a true writer uses his craft to do it. And now the thing about words is words can be soft as petal, and it could slip right through the ring like a pashmina silk. That's the power of words, and it cuts like a knife, and it heals like a miracle also. So that's how it is, man.
That's a
So
pretty good analogy. Yeah, that's a pretty good analogy, Dennis. Yeah,
yeah. So we were. How did you get into writing, man? And what are your thoughts on writing?
writing. I would say that my soul or the chicken soup for my soul is writing actually because I started writing at the age of 15 and then I never stopped. I still write. Maybe I would just end up writing a poem, or
Mhm.
maybe I'll just write 4 lines, or maybe a paragraph somewhere. But some or the other, I'm always on the writing desk every alternate day, almost every alternate day. And I started writing. I wrote my first poem when I was 15 years, and from there on, I started writing occasionally. It's something surprising that you will not believe, or being a writer, you might. You might have, I mean, like you might have come across it. You may not have noticed it, but then if you go back 10 years, and then you pick out a diary or the piece of paper where you wrote your first few poems on, it's completely out of the world. You cannot really believe it was you who wrote those words. The rhyming would be impeccable. The chain of thoughts would be so smooth, and there's a lot of innocence dropping from those words. That's what
True.
I feel whenever I pick up my diary
Mhm.
and go through some of the poems I wrote.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of music influence for me, because I was listening to a lot of rock and metal stuff. So I started off writing on a very cheesy and a very mushy note. But then after the year, when I was in the second year, I started feeling that my calling was not about romantic poems. My calling was more of the poems that pointed out reality. And there was, yes, sometimes mixed with fantasy, because that's the way things work in the poem industry. They cannot be verbose, they cannot be very lyrical, but at the end of it, I just found my writing style, and it was influenced by these metal bands or rock bands like Metallica, Linkin Park, Stain. um, One, Iron Maiden was a really big influence for me, and I never stopped. So, how about you? What were your influences when you were growing up?
Man, you had great influence, man. For me, if I were to put it down, like I started writing random stuff on textbooks on school. Then I started writing poetry on used up old diaries that my dad had collected and kept. And yeah, a shout out to my pops. He's a very good writer, but he's never shared much of his work, and he's a he's a genius actually. Then I became a bit more serious and started keeping a diary. Now, thoughts and important days, events, plans, if I, all these things I put inside the diary. So if I look back to the pages, as you said, it actually, just to take it a bit further, it
Yeah.
actually gives a window to my soul, the state of my mind that back then, you know, that's the impact of diaries, man. So it's actually it's more than a photograph. So I've realized that writing goals, working towards them, helps immensely.
Writing is pure bliss. Writing is really important. Back to you. The first thing that you said about is
Cool.
writing is your outlet. Writing is the way you perfectly try to express yourself without any misinterpretation, no misunderstanding, and being clear to yourself, echoing your own thoughts. That's writing.
That's writing. That's a great closure, Angad. Like, you brought it all together. And, of course, writing is exactly how you put it right now. And just to add that, add a couple of words. That is, if you see my Billboard 1986 Instagram handle, you will find writer unhindered by grammar. So I'm telling people, don't be hindered by grammar. Write. Just write. If you want to write a word today, write that word. Progress to 2 words tomorrow, then three, then 100, then 200. Just write. Writing makes a lot of difference. It makes a big difference. So for me, writing makes a lot of sense. It's as said, it's an outlet. So it was a great conversation on that.